This is the Satanic Socialism event, alternate paths in belief. What's so scary about socialism and Satanism, featuring Reverend, Potens, Leviathan, or Mike, if you like to call him. We are welcome to any religion to be here. We love Satanism stands for religious pluralism, and any open debate between religions, we're all welcome. Also, I'm going to be recording. It's only going to be this part of the room with just Potens. And also, we do have shirts at the end if anyone would like to buy them to support the congregation.
Alright, so
Potens, take it away.
As you said, I'm Mike, or Reverend Leviathan, Potens, I don't really care. And to kind of preface, anything I say is a view of the national organization, the Satanic Temple. It's either a view of our congregation or myself. And we make that distinction because there's multiple hierarchies of the organization, and we want to be careful not to speak for each other. That's one thing we kind of need to do. So to kind of start, I wanted to specifically start with one of Hobbes' writings, because I find that setting definitions is important if there's no conversations often past each other. And Hobbes, it ties directly into his philosophy. And part of this philosophy that I'm about to read, when I read it the first time, I pictured this old, angry person who couldn't understand the younger lingo at all. And it wasn't far off because he was 63 when he was writing it, and he was an angry old white person who was just wrapped up in wars of life, who saw like the destruction. So he writes, to conclude, the light humane mind of perspicuous words, but by exact definitions, first snuffed and purged from ambiguity. Reason is the peace, in case science the way, and the benefit of mankind the end. And on the contrary, metaphors, senseless, ambiguous words, are like ignorance fatigue, and reasoning upon them and wandering amongst innumerable absurdities, and their end, contention, sedation, and contempt. So his whole thing was like he hated free lingo. He wanted to be very to the point, very like, I don't know, that enlightenment word. So with that, does anyone have a definition of socialism, or that they view what socialism is? Because when that word gets thrown around, there's a lot of different views that get brought up. So does anyone have a definition or something that they would consider what socialism is? All right. So to me, it is one of the most democratic ways of doing things. When people often think of socialism, they think like Marxism or communism, things like that. But we're not stuck in these old times. Times have moved on, technology has changed, and there's actual chance for like change to happen. The modern way that a lot of us view socialism, as I do, is the idea that if you work for a company, like if you have a stake in anything, then you should have a say. So, for instance, like companies would then, instead of being like a board of shareholders, would be every employee would have a say. And back in the day, that was something that was like kind of unheard of because it was impossible to have every person have a say because there was no technology. You were trying to write a letter, take days to get places, things get lost, people got robbed. The technology now is perfectly capable of everyone having a say in anything that you do. Everyone can have a vote, like absolute democracy. But taking that to the socialist view, where it's not a government that has say over everything. The companies have say over themselves, but they're made up of their employees. That way everyone has a stake. And then does anyone have a definition of what they think Satanism is?
Worshipping Satan?
That could be one way of saying it. So with us, there's two different kind of views. There's some people that like believe the literal Satan, and there are other people that believe as a creation of literature, something that only exists in the mind, it's a concept. And throughout writings, you can see that Satan is often the rebellion. Satan in Latin, Hebrew, is adversary, and it was a natural adversary to the majority. It was the minority view, and oftentimes like in the Bible, if you go there, it says that he was created perfectly. He wanted like there to be like kind of peace, like he was created. It says he was the perfect embodiment. He was perfectly beautiful, perfectly wise, the morning star. And he, in the Bible, didn't like what was going on and rebelled, even knowing he was going to lose. He stayed true to himself. And to us, that's what a lot of Satanism is being who you are, no matter what other people think of you, and holding true to that, and not letting the collective mind change you into something that you're not. Because that conflation of identity can really tear people up. So being able to have a community that you're able to be open and honest with of who you are, and even experiment with people that are like, if they think they're maybe binary or anything like that, like have that community where they can support them to explore. That's kind of what we try to cultivate. So now, going back on more of the philosophy view, I'm going to hit on Hobbes briefly, John Locke, brief Rousseau, and then mainly Simone Weil, because I feel like their philosophy of like socialism and activism really ties in and opens up the doors for like deeper conversations about what it can be. And it brings it a little bit more modern times instead of the 1700s, it's more the early 1900s, World War II. So Hobbes' view of nature, because he had this view that there was government and nature, and that humanity and nature was bad, it did not mix. So it was, in his writing, whatsoever there is consistent at time of war, where every man is enemy to every man, the same consequent to the time where men live without other security than their own strength, and their own invention shall furnish them withal. In such condition, there is no place for industry because the fruit of therefore is uncertain, and coincidentally, no culture of the earth, no navigation, nor use of the commodities that may be imported by sea, no commodities of buildings, no instruments of moving an account of time, no arts, no letters, no society, and which is worst of all, continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man, solidarity, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. He had a view that in our natural form, humans were extremely selfish. They always wanted more. They didn't care about each other. And that's kind of matches up to his timeline when he lived, because he lived during civil wars. He lived during these brutal times of just people killing each other. And it's kind of interesting that with all that stuff, it was all against the monarchy, and yet his philosophy was the Leviathan. He had to reach into mythology to find this beast that he considered the sovereign that could bring peace about and manage everything. And he viewed that when you were born into like a social contract. And you just agreed to it because it brought you benefit, brought you peace. But it was always at the monarch, and you never had to say, so you were subservient like that. And that was one thing that John Locke directly refuted. He thought that nature was our prime. He thought that when humans found property, when claimed property, that was one of their downfalls. And Rousseau built on that. So John Locke refutes Hobbes. The state of nature has a law of nature to govern, which oblige everyone. And the reason is that law teaches all mankind, who will but consult it, that being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. That last part was motivation for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Locke's philosophy followed from England the Americans when this country was founded. And it was that philosophy that like getting away and forming your own, being independent, that you had these natural rights, and he wanted them codified in words. And right around that time, after that, Rousseau was in France, and they saw the revolution that happened in America. They saw everything that happened in the Civil War in England, with the problem that happened there in the 1400s, 1500s, they read about that. And they had built upon Locke's philosophy and continued to refute Hobbes's. They said the mind has its needs, as the body does. The latter are foundations of society. From the former emerge the pleasures of society, while government and laws take care to the security and the well-being of many groups, the sciences, the letters, the arts, and perhaps more powerful, spread garlands of flower over the iron chains which weigh men down, snuffing out them in feeling that original liberty which they appear to have been born, make them love their slavery by turning them into what we call civilized people. And that quote right there is that by making societies and making these rules, you're born into slavery, and all this language and everything is just there to make you feel better about your situation. So they had a completely different view, and that's kind of the view that Simone Weil built off of. It's like this nature view that we have these basic needs that have to be met. And they were born 1909, so right during World War I, and they were in France. They were part of the French Revolution. They went to Spain, were part of the Spanish Resistance. World War II broke out, and their family was able to flee and go to America. While they were here, Simone Weil could not stand by. In her life, she was a true activist. She got jobs at factories that she didn't need to see the conditions at which people in factories work. And she viewed that industrialization as like the death of culture. It was uprooting people. It made people like a slave to that. And to her, that was a downfall. That wasn't something that was conducted. That wasn't beneficial to society. So she purposely put herself in situations that most people would run from. She thought that people that sat around and just philosophized like Locke or Hobbes were kind of like useless in a sense, because it's nice to talk flowery language, but actually get out there and do something is what she wanted to do. And that's what we think, at least me, I think I draw a lot of inspiration from that, from the things I do. These posters that are around, they were from, we went down to DC for a religious equality protest that we joined in for a Supreme Court case. And we try to go out and do a lot of activist stuff. We try to be engaged in communities, especially when they're going through hard times or when they're being suppressed. So I draw a lot of inspiration from that. So when World War II broke out and they escaped, she went back to France and she joined the resistance there. And some people called her a fool, but she stayed true to what she was. She refused to eat any more rations than any of the French soldiers would get. She, even though she got sick, they believe it was tuberculosis. The medical records are not really clear on what she died of, but she could have eaten food. She was very malnourished, but she refused. And she stayed true to that. And again, that's that embodiment of the rebellion. The adversary was like being true to who you are no matter what. And that's a lot of, a lot to draw from. And they had, let me go down real quick, sorry. So their views on a lot of things were very different. So when you think of obedience, anyone have an idea of what they think when they think of obedience, like what would your definition be? So you said you had to be obedient. Before. Yeah, normally when I think of obedience, I also think of like just blind servitude, just like blindly following. Well, their view of obedience is defined as an essential need of the soul, as long as it's sort of obedience that arises from freely given consent to obey a given set of rules or commands of the leader. Obedience motivated by fear of penalties or desire for reward is merely servitude and of no value. So they took that view of obedience and said it's important to the body. It's mentally important for some people to have that obedience, but flipped it to embrace the individuality. Like you have the right to be obedient, and you get to choose who you get to be obedient to. Then all their stuff, they had a view on security, right? This is all things that at least I think government should provide, or society should provide security. Security, they wrote, as an essential need of the soul, security means the soul is not under the weight of fear or terror, except as a result of accidental injection of circumstances and for a brief and exceptional period. Fear and terror as permanent states of the soul and are mortal poisons, whether caused by threat of unemployment, police persecution, the presence of foreign conqueror, the probability of invasion, or any other calamity which seems too much for human strength to bear. And right there, if you look at what we go through today and what like people, minorities, I see it all the time over to a lot of meetings, and minorities are being oppressed a lot today. And it's still going on, and it's this fear, it's like this new satanic panic, this new refusal to be open-minded or to at least embrace equality, pluralism. And it's pushing down a lot of people. And that's something that, I think that as a society, at least, that we should provide to people. I think by forming groups, congregations, by getting people out there and getting people's minds to change little by little, can lead to a bigger change down the road. And that's like my whole goal in everything I do. A lot of people that I'm involved with do is they want to leave the world a better place than they found. They want to have a world where they have children, they can thrive and aren't going to be persecuted, aren't going to be hated for who they are, or anything of that sort. So I will continue on risk, because this is another important thing. So risk is an essential need of the soul. The absence of risk produces a type of boredom which paralyzes in a different life with fear, but almost as much. Moreover, there are certain situations which, involving, as they do, diffused anguish without clarity, defined risks, spread to two kinds of disease at once. Risk is a form of danger which provokes deliberate reaction, and is to say, it doesn't go beyond the soul's resource to the point of crushing the soul beneath a load of fear. And that's like risk and fear. Fear is an awful thing. And when you have governments or things that you aren't aware of, or governments that don't really represent you, that creates that fear. And Simone de Beauvoir way that fear was a mortal poison, was something that destroyed you. And it can, like fear, even modern times. Theodore Roosevelt, if you ever been to Roosevelt Island, he has a memorial there. And in it, it has a quote that he said, you have nothing to fear besides fear itself, which paralyzes. And it does, and it echoes throughout all the philosophy. And having a government that can reduce that fear, reduce the risk of needless harm, is a beneficial thing. It's one thing that I'm trying to, that we're trying to talk about. And get the ideas that dispel myths that socialism is just this Marxism or this government-run thing where you can try and look at government owns everything. That's not what modern socialism is all about. It's one of the most democratic, one of the most free types of government that can be. You'd still have there, just still like private property, all that kind of thing, not the communes. Cool though. So that with that. So there's one quote I want to read from a person. I don't know if anyone follows Freedom from Religion Foundation. They're a law group that takes on various lawsuits about religious equality, freedom, and find it. So he had a quote about finding God in your life. And it was brought on by someone who said that if you don't have God in your life, then you have no purpose, and life is meaningless. And his retort to that was, being human is hard, but it's also an adventure. To say there's an end to my existence is to concentrate the sweetness of everything, every moment, because that which is rare is valuable, and that which is eternal is benevolent. We are on this tiny outpost, a mote of dust, here for a fleeting moment that's barely a blink. It's up to us to endow that time with meaning and purpose. To say there is no God is not to say there is no meaning, but to say that we give life meaning and purpose. We can do good, practice empathy, leave the world in a better place by facing reality. And that quote right there sums up like everything to me. To me, socialism is one of the most compassionate and empathetic ways of government. To me, Satanism is one of the most religious, like one of the most pluralistic religions there are. It's one of the ones that allow people to be themselves and self-identify themselves. There's certain tenets, like we have 7 tenets right here, and they are pretty simple. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. Hello. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit over laws and institutions. 3. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will. 4. Freedom of others should be respected. to unjustly encroach upon the freedom of another is to forego your own. 5. Belief should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world, and one should strive to take care to never distort scientific facts to fit one's own belief. People are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that may occur. And then 7, every tenet is a guiding principle, designed to inspire nobility and thought, the spirit of compassion and wisdom and justice should prevail over written and spoken words. And that's a cool thing, because that makes it, that last one, makes everything a living document. Kind of like the Constitution is a living document. It's meant to be adapted. And that allows these to be adapted. And also, just some of them on their own. One's body's inviolable, subject on one's will. But that alone, we don't try to create this common thought of like, this is how you think. We allow everyone to think individually. And with that, we respect everyone else's thoughts. So we celebrate other people's religious freedom. We never want to be, or at least I never want to be the majority of religion. I always want to be the minority. Because Satan overtaking God just becomes God. There's never, whoever's the oppressor, once they get taken down, whoever takes them over becomes the oppressor. History showed that numerous times again. If you look at history just like Rome, one religious group has it, another one takes it over, persecutes them, and they take over and they persecute that religion again. Happening in England, it happens all over. It's this crazy thought that like one has to be superior to another versus equal. And he's like codified that. And the thought of celebrating people. So we have done some activist work in Plumstead and other townships. And there was a neighboring town, Jackson, where they were sued for infringing upon Orthodox Jewish religious beliefs by refusing to allow them to build, I'm going to butcher it, the Shabbos. It's like the houses they contemporary build for their holiday that doesn't have like running water. And the town purposely put building code ordinances that restricted those types of structures. And they were sued by the state, found guilty, and had to pay money. And that's something that at least I celebrate, because they were held accountable for what they did. They were infringing another on a person's religion. And that is treasureless, because if there's not equality, if there's not pluralism, then there can't be equality. Because if not everyone's able to practice, or not everyone's able to be respected, then equality is off the table. Being open to other people has to be the first step before you can accept and realize that we're all equal, we're all on an equal plane. With that, does anyone have any questions about Satanism, socialism, or anything?
I have 100 questions.
All ears, let's go.
But I would love the younger people to have questions. But I just want to dig into a little bit of what you're saying. Warning, trigger alert. I'm going to speak from my perspective as a man born in 1965 and raised Roman Catholic, but now an atheist.
That's cool.
So, all the things you're talking about, you're kind of enmeshing Satanism and socialism, and you're talking about secularism and individual choice. And it sounds very enticing because, I believe in individualism. I definitely believe in freedom from religion, which in my view is one of the darkest forces that has ever fallen on Earth, and the cause of many wars went on today. But Carl Sagan, who had a lot of the views that you're talking about, we're all alone on this pale blue dot. We've got to kind of make our way together. I don't think he would think that the solution to that is to be an individual secularist under the banner of Satan. And so I would just be curious, is your personal philosophy and or the philosophy of the organization you represent one that embraces the idea of a supernatural at all, A, and B, a supernatural being that is in true existence rather than mythological existence, named Satan, Beelzebub, Mephistopheles?
So, as an organization with TST New Jersey,
The Satanic Temple. Go ahead and say it.
Yeah, the Satanic Temple, but I have to make sure it's New Jersey because we don't represent the national one. As like leadership, we don't hold, like we say that the religion is a non-theistic religion. Satan's just a figure of literature, a metaphor that can be drawn on any work of literature, of mice and men or anything. There are people within the congregation that do have some supernatural beliefs, whether it's ghosts or whether it is karma or any of that stuff. And although it's different to what a lot of the majority have, we still let them be them, let them be on their journey. The journey of deconversion or finding yourself, you may never make it to where other people make it. You may just go in the woods and stop at a tree that you find comfort. A lot of you want to sit on, you may not go all the way through the forest, but we as a group don't believe any supernatural. I don't believe there's anything supernatural. I think that's just a metaphor. It's a piece of literature that is treasured in this country for some reason. But I think because of that you can draw some things from it, just like any work of literature. But when I look at that literature, I see Satan as the actual, if I read it as just a book, I see Satan as a good person. To me, in the very beginning, it says that, men and women, the Bible.
Oh, the Bible, okay.
Yeah, in the beginning it says there's men and women were created, they're in this garden, and they're not allowed to eat this tree. It's the tree of knowledge that gives knowledge of good and evil. They're told that, if you eat the fruit, that's bad. But the tree gives them knowledge of good and evil. So philosophically, if you lack the knowledge of good and evil, you can't understand that eating that fruit is bad. So it's like putting a newborn baby inside a room with a button that launches nukes. And then being like, all of humanity is damned because of what you did. It's to me, nonsensical.
Well, I agree with you in a lot of respects, because I think the idea of a lot of religions will try and say certain knowledge or failure to believe X will result in your mortal life becoming immortalized in everlasting torture in hell, where Satan resides, ladies and gentlemen. So, I guess I'm just not connecting the dots as to why one should find their own way, but to have to, why do it under the banner of Satan? I just don't see it. Like, let's pick another mythological. How about embrace objective reality? How about not look to the supernatural, but look to the natural, which is super and beyond our knowledge and awareness? I mean, there's so much in the real world to focus on. I just don't know why everyone runs to these magical things which aren't real. I don't know why you do it.
I like it because it's one of our members' put. It's like spicy atheism. It's atheism with a little bit of spice. It's more than to us, at least to me. Like, I like the dark. I like the period of dark ages. I like that architecture. I like that style. I like the vampire things. I like that dark, gory stuff. And Satanism kind of combines that aesthetic. So like when we do services, it's people that actually like that kind of aesthetic. So I did a wedding last year on Halloween. We got a full bathroom that get up and the person loved it. It was small in the woods, walking in the cornfield. So it's atheism that most of us deconverted from Christianity. So we have how this view of the Bible. And one of the ways to empower yourself is by blasphemy, by doing the thing that you are forbidden to do your entire life. The one thing that said it is unforgivable. So by being able to embrace that and do that in a way, it's freeing for some people, and it's kind of that idea.
I'm going to shut up.
Whoever will just shout out.
I have a silly question.
Sure.
You don't like pray to Satan? No, right?
No.
Like,
No. No.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. No, it's that this whole part of this whole thing is to get people to not necessarily penetrate and join like the proselytes, but to dispel myths, to open up people to questions and answer the questions, and not have their stigma or prejudice kind of like run rampant.
So, you said you married a couple?
Yeah.
But their religion is. Hold on. Skip me for a second.
Say it. Go ahead and say it.
No, but like.
So-
marry a couple together.
Perfect. So through the ministry, there are some pre-written script, like some pre-written scripts, but with that embraces individuals. Like I married my sister also last year, and with her I got to sit down and with both couples, sat down and create the whole thing, like get an idea of what they want and build upon that, give them ideas for, and it's this workshopping event that ends up building a unique script just for them that they know is value to them. And that's that individualism. I'm in a pagan group where since they don't have any like pagan ministers or big up in Lancaster, we went to a pagan private event, and I volunteered and I put my name in the hat that way if one of them wants to get married, someone to drive down from Lancaster. Me, although I'm not pagan, I don't believe in the supernatural spirits like they do, I would still be open to letting them have their piece of a problem.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the...
I feel like it's just like that with like if, let's say your cousin was Catholic and you're Christian, like you're gonna still sit there no matter what and listen to what they're doing.
Yeah, my question might be somewhat related to his, but from a little bit of a different angle. So, I was kind of expecting maybe your talk to be a little more provocative because it was hard to find much to take exception to, and as I think he felt the same way. And I actually recognize the value if you're going to have an organization, maybe a shared ethos, which is very loose, but still it's there. I can understand the symbolic value of having some sort of metaphorical figure. It could have been Prometheus, maybe, just as aptly. But I don't mind. It's okay with me that it's Satan. But I'm just wondering from a PR perspective, has this been considered, right? Because when I saw Satanism and socialism, I know that some of our socialist club members are Satanists, but I don't know if every socialist in the world would be thanking you for that connection.
Right.
And in various regards, I wonder that, you mentioned having a strong commitment to activism and to getting things done, right? You want to free people's minds to some certain degree, it seems. And I'm just wondering, is putting all this under the rubric of Satanism the greatest PR move that you could
No, I understand that completely. It's one of those things where we kind of, at least me, I fell into it. Like I was a youth leader, went to mission trips, deconverted, and then it was like a loner. But I always liked that dark gothic aesthetic. When I found a group that embraced it, and I was like, wow, like your view of things naturally aligns with mine, it creates its own little community. Encasing everything underneath like Satanism, I don't think it's all like Satanism. I think it ties the link that it breaks the stigma that socialism is this evil government-run kind of like monarchy, like totalitarianism is like some people view it as. And breaking that and saying that it's a passionate thing, and people view Satanism as this evil, dark thing that's putrid, and embracing that, showing that that's a religion of compassion, show that socialism is compassionate, and that they can both work together, but they're also separate entities. And it's weird because Satanism is like flyers like, why so scary? And it's funny because I had people that like rejected the Satanism at a meeting one time, and I was like, it's ironic that we are the scary ones here. We did a community garden on a Presbyterian church's property. We got donated to a Methodist church's food bank for the community. And it was a full interfaith thing. It was really cool, and it's like it was so scary that we're sitting there tending to a garden on our own time, like food for the homeless. It flips the script. People expect like this dark cloak, blasphemous stuff right away, and then they realize it's just a bunch of compassion. It's different.
I'm sorry to interject you. I don't mind the blasphemy. I particularly enjoy the blasphemy of all non-real things,
Right.
Satanism included. But you mentioned how it's spicy atheism in a way, and but you're drawn by the goth and the vampiric culture. That's kind of scary stuff. And I just think that there are people that probably are very vulnerable, young people that feel isolated, come to a club like this from their loneliness, and they may meet others that have this view of goth and vampire culture, and they may go a little too far into this in a way that is probably very unhealthy for them. So, I would just put out there as a philosophy for everyone to consider who's looking for a philosophy. How about being alone for a while, figuring out what you want to do, being an individual, embrace your religion if you want to, or if it's good for you from a traditional point of view and you can contextualize it. Also consider just having no religion and just enjoying your life and beholding the universe that you're part of. Without any magical being.
Yeah, there's a few people that broke off. There's occasional people that break off from congregations, and they're like, we're going our own path. And it's funny because with other religions, where people tend to leave excommunicated or breaking off. With us, we're still Facebook friends. It's we still talk and go to and meet each other and have fun. It's just they're just not in the congregation Facebook group in essence, and it's nice that way because it allows people to freely explore their own path and if they have questions, either not necessarily answer, but my approach is to guide people to their own answers. I love truth epistemology. I love questioning people to let them come to their own answers because I think everyone has the answers they need to think, and that no one needs somebody telling them how to think, what to say.
Because you're such a promoter of religious pluralism, and you don't actually worship any being or deity or Satan's just a figure. Does that mean somebody who is Christian, practices the Christian faith, could also be considered a Satanist? Because
so to me, there are theistic Satanists that believe that there is a God and believes that they were in the process of deconverting, but they missed some of the things other people caught and just saw that they viewed that Satan was a better person in the Bible. And in essence, they are still a Christian in the sense that they believe there's a God and the devil, but they worship the Satan, but they think that Satan's the better one. I only know one person. It's one of my friends that has that view, and it's very interesting. I've talked to him a few times about it, but I find it very interesting. Because to me, that's even more of being yourself in the face of that. Because if you believe that there's a God that's going to punish you eternally, and you still go against that, that's really embracing the rebellion. That's really holding true to your values more than, for instance, someone who doesn't believe that there's a God and does blasphemy because there's no consequence to it. But yeah, I don't have any they would still be welcome. We just accept everyone as long as they're, our main thing is as long as someone agrees to the basic ideas and in essence just as long as they hold true to that, we're all we accept people for who they are.
Right, your tenets are your Ten Commandments.
Right.
So in nowhere does it state you have to subscribe to yourself to Satan.
Correct. Yep. And even the last one is the best one where it's every principle is a guiding principle to inspire nobility, wisdom, and justice. So with that alone, that about everything changed in my life.
Technically somebody could just believe in God and then still say hey, but I like the Satanic 7 Commandments. But I still believe in God and I still go to church and I still do all these wonderful things, but I agree with the 7 tenets.
Yeah, there's been pastors of different religions that have gone to different lawsuits nationally and gave testimony of religious equality or things like that in favor. We also had the opposite where people oppose us, obviously, but it's nice to see people who can see it very equal. They have the same heart.
Temples or churches that we hold official meetings?
So most of our services right now are either virtual or held in Plumstead. The only place that has a building is National Sound. And it's mainly an art gallery. They kind of do is having a building kind of with us. So they had it in an art gallery. We hold everything. It's most of our in-person events. Either we have a wall coming up that's being held at the firehouse we rented it out, or the actual courtroom, or the basement of the courthouse. We went there because a Baptist church held services there for 5 years, and then the person became one of the founder of the church then became one of the committee members, and he's like promoting Christian theocracy. So we're there to oppose, and we're just following the same guidelines that they were. They don't like it very much. Well, yeah, pumps that. We're online through Discord.
I'm just going to add a little commentary if I could.
Go for
To
it.
kind of answer a little bit about what you said, because, I'm involved with secular humanist organizations, and as someone that was raised extremely Christian, I was raised to believe in literal demons, like causing my nightmares. So as a child, it was very traumatizing. So as I found my way through, deconstructing my beliefs and becoming someone that no longer believed in the Bible as something other than just another mythology, like the Greek and Roman myths that I had read. For me, I've found that there's something in my subconscious that still kind of latches onto certain things. Like, oh, well, you can't do that because that's dangerous. So I've found that getting involved in certain events through the Satanic Temple has helped me to break some of those things in my subconscious. It's actually been a form of therapy. So to go to an event and be unbaptized made me break down crying because I realized I still was holding on to this feeling of obligation through the baptisms that I had undergone as a teenager. Or a similar kind of thing with like, okay, well, I can only highlight my Bible and write positive things in it, but I can't destroy a Bible because something bad will happen if I do that. But if the Satanic Temple has some sort of event where you write something on the Bible that's contrary, not like, yay, thank you, Jesus. If they did something like that and I participated in it, then I would feel at first hesitation and then, oh, actually, nothing happened to me. Okay, weird. In my mind, I don't believe that stuff anymore, but there's stuff deeper because this was from my childhood. So for me, it's been a means of therapy to deal with it.
Do you believe in an existing, supernatural being,
I
either
don't
God
believe in-
and or the devil, and or demons?
I don't believe in any of that whatsoever. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any kind of
Do you believe in
paranormal.
the devil?
So I do not believe in the devil.
So then why are you members of the Satanist church if you don't believe in the devil? Because they'll have you?
No, it's for me. Again,
Right.
you hear that Satan is metaphorical, So to go to those events and actually prove to myself that I don't believe was why I was there. So, like,
as an atheist, it just comes very natural to me. Because
Right,
I studied
right, and
science.
right.
I studied science, and I learned
Right,
real
exactly.
things.
But it's something that is, just stuck in my subconscious. Because it was from childhood, so very foundational. So there's like superstitious things like, okay, don't open an umbrella indoors or throw
Don't
salt
step on
over
a
your
crack,
shoulder.
yeah.
Don't step on a crack. There's certain things like that. Well, you can't say Hail Satan or something's going to happen to you. So go ahead and do it. You say Hail Satan.
You might consider Unitarianism. They're
Right.
quite
And then, but for me,
chilled out.
this is not like a path that I hold to. This is something where I attend specific events, but I also part of secular humanist organizations working for separation of church and state.
All
So,
for that, yeah. Yeah.
I'm a board member. I have ties to multiple things because I'm trying to find my own healing from the way that I was raised.
And I get that. I mean, I remember being an altar boy and being scared that,
Right.
I'm going to go to hell because I sinned and I didn't get to confession in time.
Right, exactly. So, for that kind of fear, was a large part of.
Satan's not my solution.
No, it's like, for me, it's been a therapeutic exercise. Face your fear.
Sorry, this guy's fine.
To add to what Michelle was saying, there's a phrase that's been in Satanism for a long time that if you call me adversary, if you say I'm going to go to hell for being an atheist, well then adversary I am, then yeah, sure, I'm a Satanist. It's a way to cope, saying like, oh, you're going to burn in hell. It's like, well, Satan's actually kind of cool. He's a cool person, even though he doesn't exist. He doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist. So you might.
In my enlightenment, I think, coming out of the world of religion and embracing the world as it really is, to the best of my knowledge, I just don't see the point of substituting another magical, mythical being. That's just the one connection I can't make with any of this.
So what I recently read a book, Varieties of Religious Experience by William James, and in it he talks about how religion isn't really a philosophy, it's more of a psychology. And this is what I really hold dear to myself, that religion, the reason why religion is still around is, even though if the myths are more grander, it's that it's psychologically pleasing, that we still love ritual and dogma, we love to be a part of things, we love community. That's why religion is still here, and that's why I actually love this, why I consider myself a Satanist. And yeah, there's like, oh, it doesn't exist, why bother with it? Well, like, by that logic, you should never go to an art museum, you should never see a movie, because it's all fake, but it's for entertainment. If we control our own subjective individualism, then we can make it whatever we want.
See, it's like, I view it as part of, like, when it's part of like Simone Wells' philosophy was like the need for roots and community and roots and everything like that. And it's, when I went to like secular humanism, one of the things like I kind of didn't necessarily agree with was the focus on human. And that's why I like this better, because it's what you strive to act with all creatures and for reason. It's a minor gripe, yeah, but go on.
Well, that's not what you saying. I don't know, I kind of disagree with you in the aspect of religion in general. Like, yes, people look at it to be part of something, to be a community, but at the same time, like, I feel like people that believe in a religion, they need someone to, like, show them a path in a sense. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think I know what you're saying, and I think both of our thoughts actually align. I think, to better summarize what religion is, it's a need for connection. That it's also a need for community, but it's also a need for higher power. Satanists see, like, yes, we do need a higher power, but the higher power is ourselves. That we control our own destiny, that we represent Satan as the person who gave, as Lucifer, the angel that gave humanity the apple of knowledge, that wanted them to understand and have their own knowledge. That's what he represents.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like a fan club in the way that we like our own characters. It's just for our own imagination and our own magic.
I like Wonder Woman.
Someone go.
No, I just like to piggyback off what you were saying. I think where the confusion lies is like it's not a worship; it's more like a literary figure that they kind of just like have as a, again, like just a literal sense, not like I'm gonna go and
I'm sure that's what Mike is purporting to represent. But Mike has made the distinction on several points of view that he represents specifically the chapter of New Jersey Satanists and not the national. And so I have a feeling somewhere there are people around a star, and I'm sure you've done it, with candles set up, and they are saying Hail Satan, and they're probably sacrificing at least animals. Hopefully not beyond them.
No, we do like some rituals, like we did, so each minister we have, within the congregation we have different ministers that have to go through a whole course, like, get renewed every year. They'll write their own rituals. Like I did a self-love ritual where people were at the beach on a new moon, and we try to, so when you go to like a religious service, and you believe, and the pastor starts talking and get involved, you start getting that like tingle, that butterfly feeling. And that's the feeling that I try to cultivate in services. And I know that there's no supernatural Holy Spirit tickling them to create that, so I have to find a way to tie it into nature. Because nature is all inspiring. It's no design or intent, it just is, but it's fine because it's so vast and powerful, but yet beautiful. So we tied it into the new moon to represent new self. The beach, because the beach was a constant battle between the ocean taking the sand and bringing the sand. We wrote things that we felt negative about ourselves, or that we thought people thought about ourselves, on our arm with a peacock feather with dragon's blood. It's a red water-based thing. And then as people went ahead and they thought, they reflected upon what they wrote, the symbols they wrote on themselves, and they realized that at one point they felt the opposite. If they wrote fat, they realized at one point that they weren't fat, they didn't feel fat, or they felt that they were a healthy weight, then they can wash it off. And it was that work, it was a ritual of like identifying that you contain the good within, and that you're not what society would say you are. that's a lot of things with the religion versus like secularism. We can tie in rituals and things like that to build people together and almost not therapy. We advocate for therapy, but just that group religious service, which to some can be very vital, very free also.
So, like, the rituals and the stuff that you do is more or less kind of just allowing people, or allowing more of like a congregate, like body. Because, like, what if I were to say, oh, well, I could just take all of your tenets, right? Because then nothing really specifically says the worship of Satan or the ritualistic stuff, you know, or the Gothic or, you know, vampiric stuff. And I could just call it volitionism, right? Oh, it's just a matter of the worship of your will, right? There's no rituals, there's no time, there's no that. It's literally just the tenets, and that's it. We don't, you know, go out and congregate. We don't do these things.
It's actually almost in line with like some people that break off from TSD, because when I came to the Satanic Temple, I saw what they were doing, like the social work that they were doing, the legal battles that they were fighting. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I kind of pushed off, and then later on I read about them some more, and I read the tenets, and I realized that I naturally align with these tenets, and that I align with the battles that they're fighting. And I was like, well, let me see if I can get involved and help. And as I got that, I found the community, we built a community. And it was started as like that need for social justice, but turned into so much more. And that's what a lot of the congregations are. They start as this, like, you know, we want to march to DC and change the world. And as you do that, you build these bonds with people, and they make you want to congregate and do these ritualistic events.
So would you say that you also, like, you synchronized with it aesthetically? Like, you already like the dark stuff, you like the dark stuff, and you found the tenets, and you're like, oh, wow, I found myself a queen, like, I'm totally on board with this.
It was like,
would you say it would reach out to a different group, right? If, say, you took those tenets and placed it on where everybody dressed up in togas and knights and this and that, and they called it knightism, right? And then they go out and they do the exact same thing, and they subscribe to the exact same tenets. However, you know, they have a new body of worship. You know, it speaks to your aesthetic needs or your aesthetic, you know.
Yeah, and people are free to do that. I don't think they can like reword the tenets. I think the tenets are technically trademark or silent. But people have broken off and like formed their own groups. It's happened throughout like all the different satanic groups, like Leviathan Satanism. They had numerous groups that broke off. There's like the Temple of Satan broke off. There's different groups that broke off and formed their own. Even within TST, there's been outliers that broke off and formed their people into a path. And all of that is embraced, and if people want to go that route, they're encouraged. One of the nice things about having Satan, when you go to do these events to speak for religious equality and pluralism, you can say like Islam to people, and some people get like, oh, whoa, evil. But if you really want to push for equality, you show them that, you know, even with if something that opposes their view is still equal, and it forces that hand where, you know, if there's one, there's all, and otherwise there's none. And by forcing their hand with the Satanist aspect, it really pushes the boundary and codifies the point with like the legal battles. If we go to town, like when I was at Plumstead trying to do the invocation there, and we've been passing for over a year, I think like 18 months, and we're in the process of getting different records and possible laws and whatnot. And it's crazy that, you know, they won't allow it. They refuse to allow equality just because of it. If it was Judaism or something, they have no problem with it. But if you want true equality, you kind of go to the complete opposite. Because even if it's a view I don't agree with, they're still free.
Now, you hold so you hold primarily, like, I would say, anti-Christian like views and right? Am I mistaken?
For like what, like our events or stuff, or
yeah, like
our
our events, like they're all, you know, the non, or like the unbaptizing.
They're each different because they're cultivated by different ministers, so they each have their own appeal. Almost all of mine always involve some kind of like blood or something, because that's my appeal. Other people's are about fire. For one minister, he's about fire. He likes to do destruction with these things like that. So it's very individualized. There's no like set in stone thing.
So, but it's still like themed around Satanism, Christianity.
Yeah, for the most part, it's themed how. There's been events that are very colorful. Like when we go to Pride, it's not dark and gloomy. It's colorful and happy. When we did National Night Out in Plumstead, and we got a dump tank and everything, and that was like plain clothes. It's not always. Each person has their own aesthetic, and that kind of emulates where there's not like if you go to one of our meetings, you'll see people all black nail polish, black eye, like full black clothing, goth, and then you'll see people with tie dye. It's such a spread of uniqueness, and everyone's treasured for their uniqueness, which is cool.
I feel like there is like Satanism, like yeah, it's a lot of like the aesthetic that you think of, but like comparing that to Catholicism, which is where I came from, it's very like you have to follow this exact way. Satanism is an individualist religion. You could join the congregation if you want. You could join the membership of like the actual national body if you want, or you can just practice it by yourself. It is really up to you, and that there is. I like to say that for every Satanist there is a form of Satanism for them. That there is one Satanism for each person that is in it. I know a lot of Satanists that are very witchy. I know a lot of people that are very like, I guess more like fire and brimstone. Like that's what they like to associate with. I know a lot of people that are more paganistic. I know a lot of people that for my satanic style is more of like satanic Catholicism in a way, because that's like the ritual and ceremony that I love and really empowers me. And there's people that really go every which way that they want to. But Potens, I was wondering if you wanted to speak about the other campaigns that TST has done in like the religious reproductive rights.
Yeah, there's a few different things that like as an organization what they do. One day opened a virtual abortion clinic in New Mexico, and they allow for people to go there. They can have a call. It's free except for the medication, which they partner with the pharmacy to get it dirt cheap for people. So they've done things like that. There's a Protect the Children campaign where it was Texas and a few other states had laws where teachers were allowed to beat their kids still, or beat the students. And they had things saying, you know, if you do this to a Satanist, you violate autonomy, and it's not tolerated. So they actually making billboards and sent letters to school where people complain that their children are being beat. One organization I'm involved with is the Satanic Representation Campaign. They cover everything from getting veterans to have like a religious symbol, a pentagram on their gravestone, which is frowned upon. They're not allowed to have Satanists on their dog tags, so that's battles that are kind of being taken up, those things. Township invocations, because some townships still have to pray before they do their meeting. That's one thing that they cover. They're currently working with a prison because one of the inmates is a Satanist, and they want to get the approval, and the member wants to get literature. We have certain books that can be circulated. Revolt of the Angels, by Tom France, is one of the books that we consider canon. It's one of those things we just brought from literature where it's the angels decide to revolt again against God, and they decide at the end that it's better to reign in hell than certain metaphysics. But yeah, there's a bunch of campaigns we do going.
So it seems like you were saying you want like religious equality.
Yeah.
But it also seems like you guys are against religion. Like religion is like the bad thing in the world.
Yes.
So like I'm just confused. Like why you try to like defend religions like in court, or you try to make it so everyone has like freedom to religion or from religion, but why aren't you like anti-religion? Like it seems like you made your own religion.
Yeah. So if we were anti-religion, we'd be in essence like we're against ourselves. There's one thing that with religion, there's something religion brings about community, and community brings about a sense of security, freedom, collectivism. So religion allows for that, and that's how I see religion as a key component. So I'm not against it. Against is when there is one religion that takes dominance or one religion that suppresses another. And it's oftentimes one religion that suppresses every other religion themselves. So that's what that's what the Congress, and that's what we're trying to advocate for. There's one religion in the public sphere, or in Chicago, they took up the laws to have the religious display. They had like a Christmas tree and menorah and all this other stuff inside the City Hall, and they wanted to display. So last year was, what was that book that was banned? Something copious, back with Galileo. The book that Galileo was banned, they had that open. It was like the first banned book, and then with an apple, they knitted certain going up this hill.
Yeah, so the thing I'm confused about is like if you're defending, like if your issue is like with religions, like encroaching on other people's freedoms, but then you also like defend those religions, aren't you being like counterproductive?
We defend like the religions that tend to encroach upon others aren't necessarily the same ones. So currently we're going pretty much toe-to-toe with the Baptist Church. But at the same time, we realize that there's other people, like the Presbyterian Church, the Reverend there's an 81-year-old lady who was still in school for her doctorate in theology, and the town went completely like LGBTQ, so she opened up an LGBTQ club inside the church as like a safe haven for those people in the township who were going through the town and removing the town council removing people's pride flags from the property and stuff, and like, just completely against it. So we side with the people who naturally side with people who are open to each other. But at the same time, we oppose what we call theocrats, like the science back here. The ADF is an organization called the Alliance Defending Freedom. They brought up numerous lawsuits. They brought up the one with the Supreme Court in Colorado 33 created, where a person did like wedding cakes and they wanted to do websites for couples, but they were afraid that if they opened up a website, a company, that they would have to make a website. So on that theory, they brought the Supreme Court case up because you're allowed to just go to the Supreme Court with a theory case like that, where no harm is actually done. And the Alliance Defending Freedom funded that, which is $1 million. And they advocate for religious equality, but what they really advocate for is Christian theocracy, Christian nationalism is their main goal. They work hand in hand with another organization, Capital Ministries, and their goal is to get a Christian minister in every position of government. And they focus on small governments, focus on smaller towns, and get those people to work up and get up to national level. They've been doing it for decades. There's like this huge push for this, and it's been actually working really well. They've coordinated it extremely well. So that's like the religion we oppose. It's more that idea of this theocracy.
I think to kind of clarify a little bit on that point would be, you believe like in promoting the individual's right to exercise their own beliefs with themselves, but that they should not be putting their beliefs out on other people who don't subscribe to it. Right. So that your choices for your lawn decor, if you want a pride flag, should not be forbidden by the township because this person over here, it offends his religious belief. So, but you know, if this person doesn't want to put that on their lawn, they don't have to. So I guess the idea here is you're working to let people have the freedom to exercise their own religious belief, but not to go so far that they're putting their religious belief on someone else.
Right. The whole like when we go to events, the biggest one we do each year is Asbury Pride. And when we go there, we have like little pamphlets and stuff about TST New Jersey, what we do, but we don't walk around with them. We don't hand them out on the table, and someone walks by and says, "Hey, what are you?" We show them the pamphlet and they're free to take it, but we never go out and like hand stuff to people. We never open doors. We never try to push it on the people. You know, people, if they come to us, we want them to come on their own Sure, go for it.
I don't know if you said it before or not, but I was curious. Do you like encourage celebrating holidays or Christian holidays?
So,
or?
yeah, we have quite a few holidays of our own. Instead of celebrating Christmas, we have Sol Invictus, which was one of the original holidays that Christmas was taken from. So we tend to celebrate a lot more like the pagan holidays. Instead of Valentine's Day, we have Calia, which is in its raw form of what it was back in the day. It was this crazy holiday where they sacrificed like a goat, and then the women that were all single put their names in their names in a jar from the last year. They were married, and when they sacrificed the goat, they take strips of the hide, and then the men naked get around the naked woman, and they smack a woman with the goat hide, and then those are a couple for the night, and if they decide to get married, there's a mass wedding the next day. If they decide not to, the woman's name goes back in the jar for next year. It's like this crazy raw holiday, and you can see the transition from that to more Valentine's Day, where it's more tame. We don't celebrate in that sense. We celebrate Valentine's Day more of a self-love holiday than a love for others. We really like the consumerism part of it and just focus on ourselves. A lot of us tend to dedicate a lot of our time, a lot of our energy to being passionate and helping others. And we often forget to take time to care about ourselves and be born from a big picture. So yeah, we have that. We have Unveiling Day, which is the first. It's like July 25th or
July 25th.
July 25th. That is when they first made the Baphomet statue that was supposed to go to counter one of the 10 commandment statues. And that monument has traveled all across the country to oppose 10 commandment monuments on public property. It's now at sale. Valius Sol Invictus is the 25th, and it's pretty much celebrating of the winter solstice, the time to come. Dark days behind us, which was the main holiday for them, because winter was dead. They didn't have food. It wasn't until roughly like the 1700s when they came to America and raised crops, tomatoes, potatoes, things like that, that allowed them to have calories through the wintertime to live and have everyone live the wintertime and not die of malnutrition. So back then it was this huge thing. If you made it to winter solstice, you probably were going to make it the rest of the winter. So it was like kind of this huge celebration. But we would also celebrate Christmas, so in the sense where we have Christmas parties. Call it some house with the family. Wearing certain attire.
The other important holidays, Halloween is a very important holiday to us because it signifies how people, dress up as whatever they want to be for the year. Like, that's a really cool individualistic thing, and also the spooky vibes. It's a very, it means a lot to us. And also the highest holiday in any satanic religion, across any denomination, including TST, but also the other ones, is your birthday. Because that is the day that you were born, that is the day that despite anything that, you are here, and that is an awesome thing, and that should be cherished. And also, Satanists are also encouraged to make their own holidays. I make my own, I celebrate my Sataniversary, which was the first day, the day that commemorates the anniversary of the day that I became a Satanist for the first time. And it's a really nice day that I could just relax, be myself, and really be happy for who I am, and really celebrate myself.
Your holidays are cool. It's different. And for our holidays, we tend to do rituals. We're doing it again, playing on there are a bunch of hiccups where there's a ritual for Lupercalia to take that idea, again, drawing from the ideas of old, about the sacrifice of the goat, have a giant stuffed goat. People then take paper, they write their burdens on it, things that weigh them down. Inside, put that in paper, tie it to the goat, and then the goat, the stuffed animal then gets sacrificed, and that would be in theory washing away those burdens. It's a lot of trying to draw those religious connections. When you go to confession, you wash away your sins, and try to draw into that same vibe. That's the best way to put it. Go for it.
Have you ever, I'm sure most of you have heard of Monster, the energy drink?
Yeah.
Satanism.
I prefer Red Bull.
Yeah, but isn't there something behind Monster energy?
Yes, there's a meme of this this Christian woman who's the can, the marks on the can, they represent 666 or whatever.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a myth or.
Yeah, it's total nonsense. They the way that they wrote the M, which is just graphic design. They're like, oh, that's really similar to this Hebrew letter or the Hebrew number. And they just went on this huge thing because humans are pattern recognition. It's like, I've done numerous debates and talks to different people, and there's people that say that there's one person has a book. He says within the first page of the Bible, there's over like 1,000 patterns or something that record. I'm like, huh? Like, he said like within the first sentence, there's even like 100 patterns. There's not enough letters in the first sentence to like, combine them. But humans are pattern recognition machines. We try to make sense of things that don't make sense and never will make sense. And that's kind of the downfall. Anybody else? Any questions? Hey,
When we talk about like the U.S. election, is there like more international things?
yes. So there is on Saturday. Which one's the Saturday? Saturday mornings they did a service that was designed. The time National does two different services, one on Tuesday nights and one on Saturday mornings. And the Tuesday night one's kind of designed for the western part of the world, us and everything, time zone wise. And the one that's on Saturday mornings is designed for everyone else. People, there's congregations from Australia, Germany, London. London's one of the groups that decided to revoke. They decided they didn't want to be part of TXT no more. And they just handed over their intellectual property to TXT. So we abandoned the name and they went off and did their own thing. As a collective group, they all voted to do that. So there used to be a group in UK, Ireland, I think has one. There's a bunch. There's something like some members in like Egypt I talked to that like I remember like a folk band over there. It's cool. Yeah.
Okay, out of curiosity, another really stupid but dumb question.
There's no such
But
thing.
you're gonna laugh at it, so it's okay.
No.
So I have a best friend, she's ginger, and she always like gets called like the devil, or she worships the devil. In your community, would you say that there's definitely more gingers involved in the
Oh my God! I just you're ginger.
We have two, right? Are you naturally red?
Well, I'm sorry.
Are you naturally red, or are you naturally 30?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
No, this is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I may be the only one. Like it was funny because ironically, when I was born, I was conceived out of wedlock. My dad was Catholic. They tried to have me baptized, and the father, Reverend Catholic, whatever, said that I'm a bastard child and I had to get out of it. And I was like, I'm a whole. And it's ironic because I then became a youth leader, he converted and became a minister of Satan. So I was like, all right, you know what, I'm going to own that. Like, can I own that? Bastard child, sure. You put the title on me and I kind of embrace it. It's that satanic view of flipping the script. When someone says something,
It might just be.
thinking differently.
You're just watching. The camera's on there, just so you're gonna be on video. So it's okay.
He's like good vibes only all the time.
Yeah.
So like for people to say that, what? Yeah, deal with the devil. Like I swear.
Yeah, we got no soul. Well, we got no souls. We don't have anything to sell.
Yeah, that's what people say.
So it's like you can't really have a bargaining chip with the devil with that because they need a soul. But things like that, like we like to make. When we were at Pride the first year, right in front of our table, there was a hole, and there was like no cones to put in the hole. And we were trying to tell more people about it, but with how many people there were, when someone fell in the hole, we'd be like, "Oh, sold your soul to the devil," or "The devil got your soul." Like it made it. Like, we use that lesson as like an introduction, which is like breaking the ice. It's neat. I was talking about the campaigns. I got to the abortion one, the children one, the representation campaign, what they do. There's one that is Brave Action, which is a lot of lawyers and psychiatrists. And what they do is their main goal is to go after licensed psychiatrists and therapists that use religious dogma in their stuff versus using, the stuff that's in the books. I forget the name of the book.
DSM.
Yeah, DSM. So there's some therapists that just go based off the Bible and try to do that versus following the principles that they're supposed to with their code of ethics. So they mainly focus on that, going after those people. There's the Good Works campaign, which
with the Grey Faction, the reason why we do it a lot, why we have that as a campaign, in the 80s and 90s there was the Satanic Panic, where a lot of, where Satanism was just so vilified, and there was just so much hysteria over what Satanism was, and just getting a lot of hate for it. A lot of people's lives were ruined, and people were just taken advantage of by having psychiatrists make them believe that they did all these crazy satanic rituals that never happened just for fame, and then they would write books on it, and they get a lot of media attention, which a lot of them were now later retracted as just being
the Satanic
completely...
Panic was accusing people of being Satanists who were not, in fact, Satanic.
There was a daycare where the police and the parents were able to coerce the children by like interrogating for like 3 hours, where the children gave testimony that, and this comes from like a preschool or kindergartner, that one of the people at the daycare was flying around and like abducting them and stuff, like insane stuff. And it was an actual court case that they were trying to use as evidence, like the police. There was also a band, I forget what band, do you know the band? That they were in court because their lyrics played backwards, of course that is something happened.
I forget the band name.
And they weren't found not guilty in the court case. Their casing was pretty much like, if we find this out further, and it's true, you're gonna come back and go to jail, like in essence. It was insane during the 80s, like the panic, and how it affected criminal justice.
Cabbage Patch Dolls were demonic, everything.
Yeah. The campaigns, go on.
Would you say there's like a lot of socialists in here?
We don't actually, I think the National Organization doesn't really subscribe to a specific ideology or political party. Also, just non-profit organizations can't even do it anyway.
Well, we can advocate for like a form of government. We can't endorse any political figure, which I think a lot of us don't do anyway. It seems like what's cool is, sorry, John, go on.
No, but yeah, it's, a lot of members typically subscribe more to leftism, or into leftist theory, but it's kind of just a wide canvas. We have a lot of anarchists, socialists, liberals, pretty much a lot of, mostly on that.
As a congregation, it's kind of cool because naturally we kind of follow the philosophy of Smallwell, where they viewed that because during World War II, people were trying to take the lesser of two evils in essence, and they were really pissed off because the lesser of two evil is still evil. They're still morally corrupt, and they wanted to put an end to that. And a lot of us kind of follow the same path. I noticed when I talk to the congregation about it. We talk about everything. When we talk about how people vote, a lot of people don't necessarily vote blue or red. They vote for who they feel, even though they're not going to get elected nationally. It's more of, refusing to pick the lesser of two evils. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the congregation that want some kind of, to at least reject our modern capitalism. So the Good Works campaign, to go on off of them, their main goal is to help people do different drives. So they'll help people form...
Judas Priest. That was the band. Judas Priest was accused of being in a court case.
No problem. They help people form highway adoption programs. We got clean highways. They help people organize administrating with Satan, which is a thing where you collect feminine hygiene products and donate them. We did that with a SERF safe house, which is a house for domestic abuse victims, and it's confidential. We assign all kinds of stuff to go there, as we donated a bunch of stuff to them that we got from our Soul Victim celebration. People donated different products to us to get out. Any other questions, curiosities, and current things? Anything? No questions? All right. I don't think there's anything else.